Batu, Barada, Nikto.
You must remember those words.
Gordon's alive.
You know what the Turing test is?
I know Kung Fu.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stories Out of Time and Space Patreon. As usual, I'm your regular guest host, Scott Weatherly, and as always, I'm joined by Julian Darius. How you doing, Julian? You all right?
I'm all right. I came here to chew gum and talk about this podcast.
Yes. Yeah, we got. I think we need to start giving someone a bit like a golden award for coming on.
I didn't catch that.
Wait a minute. I'm back now. Right. I'm going to start from scratch. Let's start again.
Okay.
We've had enough problems there. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stories Out of Time and Space. I'm your regular host, Scott Weatherly, and as always, I'm joined by Julian Darius. Julian, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm doing all right. I'm good at two things, and that's chewing gum and talking about sci-fi movies.
Yes. We should have a bit of a golden headphones kind of thing for actors that keep appearing, at least in the same season. We've got several on this, but yeah, we're talking about Roddy Piper again in Hell Comes to Frogtown, or I have referred to it recently as Mad Skinamax, or A Boy and His Frog. Both titles that I think would be applicable right now. Yes, this is 1988's Hell Comes to Frogtown. Somewhat notorious, somewhat forgotten as well. Roddy Piper plays Sam Hell. Do you see what they're doing? Do you see what they're doing?
Hell Comes to Frogtown. Get it?
Right, yeah.
Do you get it?
In a post-apocalyptic world, following a nuclear fallout, most of the male population have been killed off, and so fertile men are collected, captured, and then forced to go out into the world to populate with fertile women. And in this case,
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah,
It's basically Why the Last Man meets Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
yes, because at some point he is forced to go to a mutant encampment populated by frog people, or Frogtown as it is known, to rescue a bunch of fertile women, which is kind of Fury Road, kind of.
Yeah. I thought about that too.
Yeah. But also, there is a plot from within Frogtown to attack. They're on reservations. There's all kinds of like semi-political statements going on in this that I'm not so sure about. But yeah, so let's start with your initial thoughts then, Julian, on Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Well, I'd say I have never heard of this movie until you put it on the list.
Right.
And after starting it, my sort of initial thoughts were, oh, there's a voiceover narration of the opening, and the opening crawl has 2 typos in it. And then there's a scene that makes no sense and is poorly edited, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be tough.
Yes.
But I'd say somewhere maybe a third of the way through to half the way through, I was pretty sold on this.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I like this movie.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's it's definitely, I don't know how to feel about it politically, but I think it sells itself. I think it really is not a bad movie, actually.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's kind of like you say, it's rough. I mean, this is a low budget affair. Despite that, like, yeah, some of the special effects are like the makeup effects, Power Rangers.
The makeup
level.
is amazing.
Yeah,
No, the makeup's better than Power Rangers.
Oh yeah,
I mean the makeup is like
the mouth.
This is good. Yeah, I mean the eyes move, and no, I mean the makeup's great.
But I mean some of it's good. It's that thing of like if this had more money, this would be, I think, not lots of money. I'm not talking like mega budget. Like this needs just a couple of like, I don't know, a couple of 100,000 more, and you'd be topping into something. No, this is a fun film. I like this film. I think, the thing to me is this film is held together primarily by Roddy Piper and his
Duct
charisma.
tape and Roddy Piper.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. There's, Roddy sort of carries me through this film. And everything else is just gravy. Look, it's kind of fun. There's some stupidity. The plot is ridiculous. The problem I have with this film though, which is where it's not kind of like, it feels like it should be trauma. Like this film should be way more in
Over the
every
top.
yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, there are
And
scenes.
winking at the audience and kind of, yeah. There are scenes that do it, and there are lines
Mm,
of dialogue that do it. And, I mean, I laughed out loud in a couple places, which is rare for, in the right places. It was an
yeah,
act movie, but, which is rare for even a comedy. But I know what you mean, right? It should be more over the top. It needs to know more what it is.
yeah, and you're right. There are scenes when I think it knows, and then you know, um, it cry like whenever it tries to be dramatic, it's kind of like, oh no, 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 don't stop doing this. You're not serious. Stop doing this. Um, but no, I do have fun with this film. Like I do kind of enjoy what it has to offer. Um, Again, like you saw like, the opening crawl, the opening narration when it's sort of like in the late 20th century, there was a dispute.
Mm.
And you're like, a dispute? Yeah, okay. It's like basically superpowers thought that like the firing of a couple of nuclear weapons would encourage people to return to peace talks. Didn't turn out that way, and so the bombing continues.
Yeah, well,
Um,
it actually says like experts on nuclear war thought
yeah,
that, and it's like, who are you talking about? I mean, there's a um adjective instead of an adverb in there. Where, I mean, it's rough. This is
mhm.
some, and then there's 10 years later, there's another nuclear exchange. Um, People still remember this. The main result seems to be that it mutated a bunch of frogs. I'm
Yeah.
not sure where this takes place. Is this like the southern US border or something?
I've always just well, I don't know. It's I mean, it's I just assume this is kind of supposed. Yeah, I mean, this is clearly shot in a desert area, but
Yeah.
that's it. Like, it's never explained where it is. Um, but it does things that, like, even the opening shots. Like, you have this sort of like the shot of like the nuclear explosions, but then you get this shot of the Statue of Liberty, or surrounded by rubble and all
Oh,
this other stuff.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and then a hand comes in, and it's just a little sort of like trinket. And I was like, oh, cool. There's like,
Yeah.
you get bits and pieces like that throughout that are, you know, good fun, like well thought out ideas. Um,
Tongue in cheek, not taking itself too seriously. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, there are things that this movie is not kind of comfortable with and is not totally aware of. I mean, the whole sort of like and I don't think Roddy Piper is amazing in it. I mean, he
no,
has charisma. It's somewhere between no charisma and strong charisma,
yeah,
but it's not clearly not at either end of that spectrum. Um,
from scene to
but
scene as well. We should highlight.
That's true. And it doesn't help that the acting is pretty bad. It's such a joy when the frogs come in, because
Yeah,
I was saying before the show, like, they're clearly the only actors chosen for any ability to act. Um because you have a professional wrestler, and then you have people who are obviously like models who have never delivered a line of dialogue in their lives. Um but I sort of feel like it should lean into the like the sex fantasy thing. Like, there are elements of like Barbarella in here, but it
yes,
kind of like doesn't want to fully embrace that. Like, it wants to be a little more serious than that. And I think that like Roddy Piper does his best to he sort of plays like, oh, this sounds great. I've got to impregnate these women, but then he sounds like, oh, that's a chore. That sort of varies from scene to scene. And I don't mind a little bit of that, but the sort of like James Bond sex fantasy, that it ends with, sort of like the kiss at the end.
Yeah.
I feel like it could play that up a little more, um, if that's what it's going for, and have it be a little more tongue in cheek. Um, it is so over the top with the thing being strapped to his crotch as part of his mission. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it manages to kind of like be off the rails without like seeming to fully know how off the rails it is. If that makes sense.
No, no, yeah, yeah. Which I'm not sure is good or bad. Like you're right, that there is stuff that goes off the rails, and you're like, cool, but then it brings it back in, and you're like, no, 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 go with it. Like like you say, lean into that. Stop. Like the whole opening bit where, and again, I'm kind of confused again by Roddy's character. So Sam Hell is the name of the character.
Is it
And,
Hell or Hell Man? Because his buddy
well,
calls him Hell Man at one point.
and I didn't know if that was like hell, man. Like I didn't know. I didn't know. Yeah, because I'm sure he's called Hellman somewhere else in the film as well. At the beginning by the guy who's got him in prison. So we are introduced to him in a prison, and he is being beaten up by I think like the guard or the captain of the guard, whatever. And he's about to kill him, and they come in their sort of the provisional government. What are they called? Like what they call it, Metatech or something. Is the division?
Oh yeah, MedTech or
MedTech. Thank you. Yeah, they come in and they sort of
commandeer the prisoner
yeah, and
from this guard who wants to kill him.
Yeah, well, it's the reason they want to kill him. So this is the point. So basically, the guard is saying, "You basically sexually assaulted and raped my daughter."
Yeah,
and then then the women are like, "Oh no! Now she knows she's pregnant. She's changed her story." And so
she's happy now.
She's happy now. So they want to let him go. And I'm still going like, sorry, are we following a rapist in this film? Is that what you're telling us? 'Cause the rest of the film then tells a different story when it's just like,
Let's
oh no,
be clear. All male action heroes are rapists. This is the only movie that makes that explicit. Okay.
Yeah. It's just sort of like a really weird opener because then later on he's
no,
going to be like,
I agree.
oh, I respect women, and you're like, what? I don't. What happened at the beginning of this film? Like, make your mind up.
Right.
Yeah,
you were
really
introduced as a rapist, and it doesn't help that whole scene is so convoluted. It's not really clear. Like the guy is torturing him, and going to kill him, but he seems like he's sort of not as angry as he should be if like his daughter were raped and impregnated. I mean, and then these women come in, the acting's terrible, the cutting is terrible. I mean, like, this is a movie that it's really tough in the opening, but it seems to have this philosophy of cutting. Like, you can show a guy being punched in close up, and then he could fall into any other setting imaginable, and the audience will just say, hey, that's the same scene. That's the same setting. There's no sense of larger consistency between cuts at times, and that's certainly true in this opening. So yeah, this was part of the kind of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to think about this guy. He's kind of quipping wise about, but we just were told he was a rapist. And then we're told, well, she enjoyed it, she's changed her story. Does that mean women change their story in reverse? Like, I'm not sure what you're trying to say, but it's uncomfortable.
It's all very weird, and I end up sort of just letting it go a little bit, where I'm like, all right, that's kind of what I think they're trying to say, but I don't understand it.
He's a rough and tumble guy, I think, is what we're supposed to think, except he seems more comedic and nonchalant than an action hero.
Because I was thinking, like, is this Mad Max? But I think the better comparison I think that they were trying to go for is Snake Plissken.
Yes, I thought that too.
Where I'm like, because it even has like the beginning of the film has like all these pictures, and then it has the picture of Roddy as Sam Hell, and it says wanted, and it says captured, and I'm like, oh, this is the start of Escape from New York, where they've caught Snake Plissken and they're going to set him on a mission. I'm like, okay, cool, all right, fine, I know what I'm watching. So
Don't,
yeah,
don't they
that's
put
sort
a
of
deton? I was going to ask you. Don't they put a detonator in Sam Pliskin?
they do.
You
They
know,
put one in
in
his neck that says like if you go
okay,
this, yeah, if well they actually put a capsule in his neck that will detonate in 24 hours if and release a virus that will kill him if they
okay.
he doesn't do the thing. So yes, so a very similar thing as well.
This is just like, hey, what if that capsule was in his dick?
Yeah,
Like,
basically.
hey,
But this is what I'm saying. Like
it's more badass.
this feels like it should be trauma, doesn't it? This is kind of
Yeah,
like, oh, this should be Toxic Avenger, kind of like Nuke 'Em High, kind of like, oh, go full out splatter gore, silly, crazy. But
yeah.
it never quite goes that far. Um,
Well, except at times in Frogtown. Like, I
yes,
think things pick up in Frogtown because Frogtown is inevitably more over the top.
yeah, it takes a little while to get there, but I like some of the jokes in because he gets them taken to med tech and he's sort of they're saying like you are the most fertile man we've ever found. And he's like, oh cool, all right, well, cool, all right, what does that mean? And you meet the woman that's going to be sort of like leading this. What's her name? Yes, Spangle, played by Sandel Bergman. Um
This is the
yes.
future of G.I. Joe, right? Where everybody can just have their own code names and have and specialties and dress however they want. Like,
Yeah. Well, can we just say that like this? I just want to you say about this model, right? Because I know you said like so Sandal Bergman, who's brought in to play this role of Spangle. We need to just sort of like she's not just a model. This isn't her first acting gig. Like she'd done stuff. Like she was I'm just checking because I know her. Like her face. I know your face. She was Valeria in Conan the Barbarian in '84. Um, she was the Queen Gudrun in Red Sonja. Um, so she done stuff before, like not even like small stuff. So the fact she hasn't got any better at acting is
yeah,
kind of
she's not
telling.
good.
No,
Yeah. And I have to say that Sac Varel as Sentinella, which always makes me think of Citronella,
yeah,
but she's better in every single scene,
yeah,
and
she
and
is.
she's not as highly built.
No, but this is what is weird. But like, yeah, but basically he has this team, but he's tested. He's going to be sent out with this cod piece on, and that has has a flap in it that
We're
allows
told.
him. We're told, never seen.
Yeah.
But it's also connected to these earrings that Spangle wears. That when she
Touches
she
them.
touches them,
Yeah.
or if he goes within a certain distance. Um,
There are a lot of rules.
I can't remember them all. Like if he goes a certain distance away, like there's the threat of detonation, but also the threat of it doing something like squeezing his junk. Like I'm not entirely sure. It hurts him. Is
Well,
basically what it does.
she can trigger the pain, but
Yes.
also if he's out of distance, it triggers the pain. But I mean, at some point, I mean, there's a lot of rules to this and seem to get thrown out whenever the plot demands it.
Yeah, but it doesn't damage anything, which is the key point they keep making. Like it'll hurt you, but it won't damage anything because we still need your bits to be sort of your genitals need to remain intact for you to do your duty. Um, but I do like just for going back to the hospital, whatever. There's a couple of jokes where they have the things on the wall, and then there's like a big red no sign through condoms, and this sort of
Mm.
making babies is our business, our only business, and a few things like that. So there is some, they try to make some jokes and stuff. It's not quite satire, but again, or anything, but it's it raises a chuckle at times.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's trying. I don't think it's really funny,
No,
but at least it's trying. But yeah, at this point, especially because you're the most fertile man we've ever encountered, I found myself thinking, like, was this written by Roddy Piper?
yeah,
Like, I mean, it's so fine, and yet I'm not sure that we're supposed to like this character or that whoever wrote this knows how to generate sympathy for a character. It is very strange, and to me, it's not uninteresting. Like you said, the Statue of Liberty visual gag is a highlight.
Mm.
Croaking, in the first scene, like, is kind of like, at least that's a tease for later, although they don't croak in person when you meet
No.
them. Like, there's a lot that's bad so far, but at least it's trying a few things.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's a bad movie so
it
far.
is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it starts rough. I mean, it really does. I mean, um, they're not sure because the other problem is like one of the key things that we basically one of the key rules of these kinds of films is if you're going to introduce a character, then you kind of need to show how badass they are
Mm-hmm.
in some way. I mean, even with Snake Plissken, they don't actually show me. It was cut. The whole bank robbery was originally going to be part of the film, but you kind of sort of like Kurt Russell sort of gives the gruffness, but with it on its own, it doesn't mean anything. You need the other characters to be saying, oh,
You're a
Snake Plissken,
badass.
you're a badass. Like we know, like here's, that scene you often see is that they'll open the file, won't they, and go like, oh, you were a Green Beret and you did this and you did that, like just to remind the audience that you're a badass. Like we haven't got to show you anything yet, but like in this one, there's kind of like he's a rapist. And you're like, cool. What else apart from being incredibly fertile? Like, why is this person? We need to sort of
Yeah.
like, is he survived in the wilderness? They acknowledge that he's left like a stream of pregnancies behind him, but like,
But that's all we know about.
that's all we
That's
know.
why I thought, like, was this written by him? Like, yeah. That's all we know is that he's fertile, but he plays kind of like a weirdly lazy version of the action hero. Like, there's no legends about his toughness. There's just legends about his fertility. And he seems kind of tough, but also lazy. I
Yeah.
don't know, which is kind of cool.
Like a,
Because it's sort of
like a
give
slacker,
straight.
like a slacker action hero, which could be really cool, but
If
you
they
still
played
need
it
to,
up
yeah,
and knew that that's what they were doing and then play it up, right?
yeah.
Like,
But like, we know that you impregnated 9 women in this one village, and then but in doing so, you also ended up taking out blah 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 blah. Like, you did these things. He needs to be set up as being that person, but yeah, he's not. So he's just walking genitals at this point, really.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but yeah, they obviously go into the desert, and there's
Well,
a
they go on
weird
their mission. So
yes,
their mission is to rescue a bunch of fertile women who have been kidnapped by the mutant frogs who live in Frogtown, right?
mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a very dangerous mission. The Frogtown, at this point, do we know that it's run by this guy named Toady?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, that's
so
known.
I mean,
Yes.
that's another sort of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles name or something, like, but again, it doesn't seem to know that this is so completely over the top. They drive this sort of like van with a machine gun mounted at the top, and it's sort of like
pink
yeah,
van.
it's kind of cutely feminine, but also tough, which is kind of cute, which is sort of befitting their version of a female military. It's like, well, they'd be gruff and tough, but they'd also be horny and into
Mm-hmm.
pink. Like, when we let women in the military, we're gonna have some bedazzled tanks. It seems to be the
Yeah.
version of this world's worldview, this movie's worldview.
Yes, but yes, they're going to not only they're going to rescue them, so he has to rescue them and then impregnate them. Like
Yes.
that's the contract they've had him sign. Again,
And he gets his device attached, which is obviously like a cheap plastic attachment that, when he moves it, like the first instruction should be, don't move this thing on camera, right?
Yeah.
Like, keep it stationary, because it's obvious you could just wiggle out of this.
Well, what's weird is when he's first shown in the hospital in this thing, he's just wearing this thing. Like he's wearing this groinal attachment. But then when he comes out, it's on top of his trousers, um, on top of his costume, on top of his jeans. So there's part of me going like, oh, so he took this off again to get dressed. Because it needs to be there on display. And then he sort of, yeah, it's weird how it's all sort of set up.
And then it's moving around. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
through the entire movie, part of his costume is a red t-shirt hanging off of him, which is clearly intended to recall his WWF persona,
Mm-hmm.
who wore a kilt.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, we can't use that character, but we could wrap a t-shirt around him and kind of hang it like a kilt.
Well, I thought that, and actually, what I thought was, I thought they can't have him wearing that groinal attachment when he's running around because
Mm.
it's going to get in the way. So they need a costuming choice that allows it to be hidden so he doesn't have to be wearing it when he's doing all his scenes later on. So they can just, or it's so delicate because it's made of crappy, cheap plastic that they can't afford to be using it all the time. So I
Yeah, there's
spotted
only
that.
one. They had to repair it 4 times and eventually just said, stop moving with this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. Um, So yeah, but they do. Yes, they have their mission and they make their turn. They have to go. They go to a way station, and there's a mutant reservation. They have to go to. So this nuclear war has created the ones we know about because we're heading into Frogtown are mutant frog human hybrids. I'm curious, like, there's no explanation as to why frogs. Like, is it just because of this area was there's frogs, or is that in other areas are there other animals that have mutated, like say like Ninja Turtles, or I
Yeah, I
don't know.
wondered about that. I mean, the thing that bothers me is how do they mutate into human form? Like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't even think like, why did this only affect frogs? What
Yeah,
bothers me is more like, how did it cause the frogs to like instantly become human sized? Like, and have, 2 arms and, they're all human proportioned and stuff. Um, yeah, but the frog design, especially once you see them, in Frogtown, is glorious. I
yeah,
mean, like it is simply glorious. Like it looks like a Rick Veedon comic. Like it looks like gross
yeah.
and amazing costuming. I just really love the frog design.
Well, I want to say we'll get to because I do. I think there's some
Yeah.
really cool choices in some of the frog costuming and frog designs. Um, but one of the ones before they get there, they meet a woman in the desert that is clearly traumatized.
Mm.
Dirty. She's been on the run, and we find that she's one of the women that escaped from Toady from Frogtown. Um, and instantly, Spangle is like, "Well, you have to impregnate her. She's one of the women. You have to sleep with her." And they set this whole thing up, and she tries to arouse Sam Hell.
Well, let's
It's
be clear. Spangle does a dance to
oh
try to arouse Sam,
yes,
so that he will have sex with another woman.
yes, and she's
Because it's
unconscious.
written by Roddy Piper.
Yeah, well, yeah, but she's been drugged. This woman's been drugged to be
Hmm.
aroused, but she's still unconscious.
Hmm.
And but Roddy's like, "Oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Like Sam's like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. This is weird. And then, but it's not like there's no like, it's not like there's a morality where it's like, well, she's unconscious. This is wrong. It's more like I'd like to get to know her. Like
Hmm.
there's like I basically want the circumstances to be better rather than
I can't
I'm
perform on command with people watching me.
yeah
I don't know this woman. Yeah.
she
It's not like, is this a rape?
yeah. But so he tries to. So I think they're trying to show some morality, but not well.
The right kind?
Yeah, because then he does end up sleeping with her after Spangles tried to sort of get arouse him, and then he sort of says, "Oh, put your shirt back on," basically, and
That is so
um
weird. I mean, it's
yeah,
like he is aroused, but he's also like feels sympathy for Spangle because she can't get him aroused, and she says she's been trained in like the arts of arousal as part of her military training. So like she is both a commando whose literal job it is to get Hell's dick hard so
Yeah.
that he can impregnate other women. Um, yeah, I mean, this is all kinds of batty and sort of uncomfortable. Um, yeah, so but he feels like it's failed, but it also works.
Yeah.
Like, and he feels sympathy for Spangle and tells her to put her
Their
shirt on,
relationship,
but
their relationship is so weirdly messed up throughout the entire film. Like I know they're
oh, it's
supposed
a
to
love story for the ages, Scott.
like they end up together at the end of the film, but like at no point do I ever feel like they've ever liked each other to do or not. It's weird. But you're like, but this
I agree.
woman, the next day after all this has happened, like they've given her a chance. She's got some new clothes on and she's ready to go. And they've Spangle sends her off and says, "Look, go that direction. That's where you'll reach the border or whatever." But like, she then gives Roddy a hug.
Oh, she's giggling when she wakes up.
Yeah,
Like she is like, "Oh, I love that sex." Like presumably the drugs have worn off by now.
yeah,
But apparently like she is just like, "I am so grateful for that night of passion and to possibly have a baby inside me."
yeah. But they have this line about sending her back because there's just an assumption of pregnancy. By the way, there's just like
Hmm.
an assumption of sort of like fertilization because they say like they actually say like, oh, she's incredibly fertile right now, like
Hmm.
like they've run a test or something. But Spangle has a line where she said the woman's worried about going back, and she says, "Oh, but mothers are the like the height of society.
Hmm.
You'll be treated like a queen. Go back." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." But you're treating Roddy like this because you have an abundance of women, and I know it's about population growth and stuff, and I'm not sort of both are involved, but like, but you have but Roddy's the one you've been banging on about because he's the most fertile man. So, and this is where I'm going like this is fine, both could be true, but I'm like, okay, how does this society work then? I kind of want to know more now about like, is there a place if she goes back, she'll be taken to this med tech and is there like wards full of, expectant and new mothers and they're all treated really well and like how a baby's looked after, like, this is still a radiation soaked place. So what about deformities and all this other stuff? Like, I kind of wanted to know more, but we're not going to get it. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you're not sure whether to believe that story. I mean, it could be she's going back to like the Ceylon baby farms or something.
Yeah.
Like, you're not really sure. Um, but it's funny that they can't run a test to see if she's pregnant. They don't bother to mention it. And it's
No,
clear that that's because the film doesn't think about it.
no.
Because I want to point out a couple other weird cut aspects of the whole sequence, which is she arrives, then Spangle says, "Oh, I ran a test on her like in the last 10 seconds
Yeah.
and she's fertile. She's extremely fertile, right? We never see what that test is. It's just it's another between cuts. Then when in the next morning when she's all giggly, and whatever, Spangle has a line about how they've Spangle and Citronella have this exchange about, did you clean her up? And the implication is that Hell has cleaned her up.
Yeah.
But how did he do that? How did there did he in the middle of the night find some wet rags just hanging out in that van? I mean, I don't know. Obviously that's just a line of dialogue to explain a continuity error. But again, it's like this movie has this weird belief in the power of cuts to explain everything.
Yeah.
Um, that's really annoying, and yet feels obligated to explain like why a woman isn't dirty anymore, but can't bother to explain why they think she's pregnant.
It's yeah, anything can happen between scenes. That's basically what this film is. Anything can happen off screen. We're not going to worry about it too much. I mean, you are right. I mean, it continues like well into the rest of the film. There's like several things where people travel from one part to another, and you're like, oh, okay, this person clearly isn't part of this scene anymore, or they've got to do this other thing. Like, yeah, it's um but this one in particular, they're trying to use it to make Sam. They're trying to give him some humanity to be like, oh no, he's the one that cleaned her up and he's taking care of her. And you're like, oh, that's nice. How did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like, surely that would actually add to the character to actually show some of that, to show the humanity of sort of like that conversation. Or, nope, nope, not gonna worry about that. Doesn't matter. We can just put it in dialogue and tell you that it happened, and then we'll move on. Like, this isn't a, this isn't. It's not interested in this at all, really, is it? That's the problem.
Escape attempt, right? Where we see he's already had the escape attempt where we see
Oh yes,
you
that
know
was early on.
the
Yes,
pain. So at least the movie knows that it's got to establish that, right?
yes.
Um, so not the best scene, but at least it establishes something. But he seems like he can't wait to escape. He seems kind of like more of a ruffian, more of a ne'er-do-well than a typical action hero. Um, I don't know. It's hard to, but he cares for her, but he also and he feels bad for Spangle, but he also is glad to have sex with this woman, who
Well, this is the
may be
weird.
drugged.
This is the weird conflict of, he's going to, he wants to escape. I'm not even sure why he was captured. Like, he's been captured for doing the thing they want him to do. So he was arrested for doing the thing he wants to do, but whether it was consensual or not, that's different. But if he escapes, he's going to go back to doing the thing they want him to do. Fine. But also, by him being in captivity and under the control of MedTech, he's still doing the thing he wants to do, which is sleep with women. So I'm still kind of confused as to where the conflict comes from, like why he's trying to escape. Because there's this thing of like, oh, I'm not your puppet on a string and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but you haven't shown that you would like. Are you an outlaw? Are you something else? Do you do anything else other than go from town to town and impregnate women? Like, I don't know what you do that this is stopping you from doing the thing that you do.
Well, in fairness, he doesn't want to infiltrate Frogtown. There's he says that's suicide, right? So
Yeah.
they do have him doing a military mission.
Yeah.
The end goal of it is to impregnate a bunch of women, but you know, but there are a couple other things about this whole scenario that is very strange. One is that this movie completely assumes that every woman's goal in life is to become impregnated.
Yeah.
That is so strange to me. Like, I know that's such a cliche, and there are a lot of women who dream of being mothers, and that's great. Good for them. Obviously, not every woman feels that way. There are plenty of people who don't want to have kids, male and female.
Mhm.
The other thing is every woman who is potentially going to be impregnated is gorgeous,
Yes.
and like it's never like anyone who's like, I'm 40, I'm 150 pounds overweight, like I've been through a tough life, like you could tell I've been out in the sun for those 40 years,
Leathery skin.
gotten in a lot of fights, like but
Lost
I'm
an
still
eye.
fertile,
Yeah.
like sorry man, you got to do this, yeah, exactly. That is never a scenario here. And
Yeah. We don't know that. That might be his type. That might be the problem that we're seeing. Like, he's
yeah,
introduced all these beautiful women. He's like, oh, I'd rather it be a leathery skinned, one-eyed 40-year-old woman. I think that's really that's my kink. I don't know. Maybe.
yeah, and I'm not trying to rag on
No.
leathery skinned 40-year-old women. But this movie has a type,
Yes.
and clearly women fit that mold. Then again, it doesn't have a very clear depiction of what men are either, except they're sort of ne'er-do-wells who want to have sex. There's not really a very high understanding of human nature of either genders or sexes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, coming into this, if I make the comparisons like Trauma, like I'm not expecting like tight plotting, but like some basic characterization would be beneficial at this point where I'm like, I know who they are. I mean, it comes in later. I mean, I'm actually looking to see. I wanted to check because throughout the film, when he's sort of like, once he's dressed in his costume, as it were, like his, I don't know, whatever he wears, Roddy Sam has a necklace with a little heart on it. And I'm like, cool. And you notice it like routinely. Like, I'm like, all right, cool, it's there. Like, this is the same thing of like they've done costuming and sort of they want to give him a past. It turns out later on that was his daughter's
From
uh,
before the nuclear
from
war.
before the nuclear war and all this other stuff. And you find out, you go, oh, okay, so he has got a past. And you're like, cool. Is it relevant to the plot? Does that give him extra human? Nope. Has no impact on anything. It kind of sort of is there to build a bit of a bridge between him and Spangle, but like to give him some humanity. But I'm like, yeah, but you could have done this like so many other ways rather than just going like, oh, he had kids. Yeah, that doesn't mean he was a good person. That's like what I don't understand. Like,
Well, that's all that's expected of a man. Like,
yeah,
if a man has children and sticks around, pretty much he is instantly given the gold star of like, that is a good guy,
yeah,
Um,
well done. Yeah,
yes. You are in the top 10% of all men. Doesn't matter if you've ever done a dish, doesn't matter if you hit someone,
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things like that in this movie where, like, clearly, I think the backstory is he lost his family during the nuclear war, and that caused him to kind of become this ne'er-do-well sort of
mm,
character. But you get more of a sense of that in most other action movies, right? Even
yes,
silly action movies where you just have that moment of anguish where you realize like, oh no, they're still fucked up about it. It's clear that like Sam Hell's not fucked up about it. He's just having a good time. Like he's
yeah,
like, yeah, they're dead now. I like my drinks and I like pussy.
yeah,
Like
that,
that's pretty much the depth of this character. Even like I keep thinking of like the flap thing. So like there's this joke that the I call it's sort of an electronic chastity belt.
hmm
Uh but the chastity belt, like clearly there's no opening and
yeah,
it causes pain and everything else. So they say, well, how do you have sex with that? How do you urinate? And every time these things come up, there are these lines that say, oh, there's a flap.
yes,
And this is clearly a kind of like wink wink at the audience. Like it's intended to be, yeah, there's no flap there. This is our explanation for how to get out of this. And it's repeated so often that it's got to be a kind of like winky, in universe sort of reference to this meta
mm,
thing of there's clearly no flap. It doesn't really make sense, but they don't wink at the audience enough with it, right? Like it doesn't really commit to that gag, which is a funny gag. Like
yeah,
that could be a really clever little bit. And instead it's like, did you meant that like 40% too sincerely, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. That is exactly what this film is. It's sort of like 40% too sincere, like throughout. Because you'd have that and have like a really. If this was Mel Brooks and you were going to have that kind of gag, it would be off screen. You wouldn't need to see the flap. You don't need to see the flap, but you'd have like a really complex mechanical, like the sound of like a transformer transforming or something, where you'd be like, I'm never going to see what this thing is, but like it sounds ridiculous. Like, like you'd have some noise to goes with it, and then people going, "Oh my god!" Like it kind of leans
What
into
is
that gag.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of leans into that gag later on with the dance of the three
Snakes.
snakes. So it kind of like does do those kind of things, but doesn't know to do them again and again. Like
It doesn't like wink at the camera enough for me,
no,
right? It doesn't like they're not these lines are not delivered with that
tongue
same
in
sort of
cheek.
like, yeah, exactly. They don't
Yeah,
have that tongue-in-cheek character to them. They kind of do a little, but
yeah,
again, like they're sort of like 60% there, but they're not really committed to it. And so
yeah.
that doesn't really tell you as the audience like what tone is this intended to be in. Like, is this really just an excuse that
Mm.
clearly there is no way to urinate or have sex with this plastic thing strapped to you? Um, or is it a gag and they kind of want to have their cake and eat it too, and it should
Yes,
just be a gag?
yes. No, go for the gags more. I think that's what this film needs to do. Um, but then they do reach Frogtown, and they've got to set this up. So they have the setup where Sam is now going to be sort of walking Spangling as a his slave, his property that he's there to barter with. And then once they're in, they'll be able to finagle it so they can rescue the women and escape, and then he can impregnate them, so on and so forth. They have a
And he puts
contact to them as well.
collar around her. And then you have the obligatory scene where he puts down her hair and
Yes.
comes very close to saying, like, oh, you look so much more attractive that way. It's not quite that patronizing, but it is recognizable as that scene. I
Yes.
will say that this movie has one of the best movie posters of all time. Star Wars 77. With sort of Leia clinging to his knee.
Yes.
It's got her in the collar on her knees next to him.
Yes.
Which she never is in the movie.
No.
But it's clearly like they know collared hot girl with Roddy Piper as the action hero.
Yes.
That's how we're gonna sell this.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's even not just for the posters, but like her in that costume becomes and in the underwear, it becomes kind of like, oh, this is what's going on the back of the cassette. Like this is what's going in the trailer. Like that's the money shot. That's the kind of thing.
It's very Leia slave outfit,
It is, yeah. Just enough to cover things, but like revealing enough that it's sort of like, tantalizing.
And she's
yeah.
she's on a leash, but the collar isn't tight, right? I mean, like it's kind of like it's more about the costume than it is the practicality of this.
Yeah. This this next bit though, I mean, it goes into Frogtown, but
they just walk into.
Yes.
But I mean, like I thought this was going to be a whole like they show the walls. The walls are impressive. I was like, oh, they're going to have to talk to somebody on the wall who's like a guard or whatever. Like this is going to be this whole Mad Max kind of like bit here. I know this. And instead, they just walk right in.
And there's no one about. But this is the thing that made me laugh about this. I actually chuckled at this because the visuals for this, wherever this sort of like abandoned factory or whatever the hell this is impressive. Like it looks really cool. Whoever did the scouting for this location found an absolute belter of a location because it is phenomenal. But they can't populate it because they don't have enough money for extras.
Yes.
So
right.
It kind of looks abandoned. And I'm thinking the same as you. I'm thinking this is going to be Bartertown. We're looking at Mad Max 3. We're looking Beyond Thunderdome. We're going to have like weird stalls and we're going to have all this other stuff. Nope. We have basically one bar that is kind of populated. That's not even like Star
There's
Wars.
Like 3 people.
Yeah. It's not even like Star Wars Cantina populated. Like this thing, this isn't Casablanca. This is really sparse. And this is where the budget.
That's a very good point.
This is where the budget really kind of shows that, like, not even from a makeup or special effects point of view, because they have interesting ways of covering faces so you don't have to do all the frog makeup. But there's like 4 guys at the bar, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is really disappointing.
Yeah, you really need the chaos of the streets. You need people bartering in the streets, all that stuff that, like, the Mad Max movies do so well.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like the neon signs, like that stuff works. That stuff, I'm watching that. I'm like, this is good. Technically, it's like a strip club. It's like it's not really about. It's really more like a strip club. There's a dancer. I mean, like it's continuing. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
and she's got makeup over her eyes that are clearly part of the frog suit, but so it's a little silly. It's a little overdone, but. Again, those frog costumes look great. The setting looks great. You're right that the key problem is it needs more people. It needs more kind of, a lived-in space as opposed to like a hole in the wall.
Yeah. Well, the reveal of the dancer, again, this is one of the things where it does well. Because this film has shown you repeatedly like sexy women. Like, you've had like, as you say, you've had sort of Spangle and the other one, what's the name?
I always say
Centrilla,
citronella.
Citronella, yeah, Sentinella. You've had those and they're very attractive, and you've seen even this other woman they found in the desert, okay, very attractive, cool. And so it starts with this sort of like panning up shot, and you're sort of like, it's wearing like lacy stockings, and there's a dance going on, and it's wearing sort of lingerie, and you're like, ooh, okay, they're showing another. This is maybe one of the women that's been captured, another attractive woman, and then it reveals the face, and it's the frog makeup, and it is very good, it's very effective, and you're like, oh Christ! So there's again, I'm like, this is it. This is what the film should be doing, like
Yeah.
tantalizing you and then giving you a slap in the face. Like this is good. Like okay, more of this. And it does do this kind of. It starts to do this a little bit. And again, it knows enough, and maybe the budget just restricted this way too much because they then meet this guy. Well, first off, he meets
The guy who owns the bar, right?
Yeah, they meet the bartender, and then he meets his sort of his friend, is it like Leroy or whatever, the guy that
Yeah.
is the miner that finds uranium, and so that's where it alludes to this thing of like, he's like, oh, I'll just find uranium and help them mine it. So there's clearly something bigger going on. There's a plot where the frog people are like, they're mining uranium to do something, and we all know that's linked with nuclear weapons. So like, what's going on there? Never really goes anywhere. But they then meet this sort of, I forget the character's name, but they meet the guy who's sort of there to barter with, to trade. And I love the fact it's clearly, like, I'm assuming it's, well, from ISO, a Casablanca reference. The guy's wearing white
Yeah.
suit, red shirt, a fez, and glasses, like frog glasses. And again, I'm like, this is cool, good. I'm all in on
Yeah.
this. The guy looks like a frog. He's wearing like, the white suit and the glasses and the fez. Like this is all good choices. This is cool stuff.
Yeah, the fez is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
No, I'm with you. Like this section is really strong.
Yeah. Um. And there's this conversation about bits. And then he talks about that. He gives enough information like that. It's run by the guy who's like General Toady. But he has a guy called Bull, Colonel Bull or something. Obviously Bullfrog is, so he's the second in command, and he's clearly crazy. Which is all fine. Like, all this is tropes we've seen before. Like this is Mad Max. This is you're gonna have like from Road Warrior. You got the sort of your leader, and then you got your sort of your guy with the mohawk and all this other stuff. So yeah, no, I'm good with this. It looks fine, and the makeup's looking good. But then like I say, Bull turns up and threatens, and there's the whole bargaining thing. Like, I think the traders sort of said, "I'll give you 30, whatever it is."
They bid up to it like 50. What is
Yeah,
it? It's like the currency.
and it's like clams or something they call them. It's not
Yeah.
like a But then the Bull comes in and says, "No, no private bargaining, no private bartering. This is open. Everything has to be open bartering." So I'll open the bidding at 5, and no one dares threaten him. So it sort of drops from 50 down to 5, and I like all this. Like, this is good. I'm like, okay, this is setting up. It looks sparse. It needs to be more populated, but like, I'm
Especially
getting
that with that barters need to be in the open
yes,
business. Like that is a wide shot of the bar. You're seeing people reacting, and it's like apparently all of your barters happen in sparsely populated strip clubs, on off hours.
Yeah, based on the number of people, this is still a private barter. This is
Yes, exactly. Like they need to take this down to the streets and have but clearly the budget won't allow that.
No, which is
You
a
put
real
your finger
shame.
right on that with the actors.
Yeah,
Sparse feeling.
But I'm liking what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
what they're telling me about Frogtown and all this other stuff. Like, these are people are on a reservation, and they have sort of set up their own sort of civilization, and there's a new there's an order of things here. All this is it's not it's not nothing new, but I'm liking the way what they're trying to do. So
Well, and like you said, like the it's not really aware of its own politics. Like
Yeah.
there's that line, I think it's a little later when that they talk about the, you put us on the reservation.
Oh,
And Sam Hell says, I didn't do that. Like I'm not a fan of the military and the government, which is very sort of like
yeah.
your most blithe answer to white privilege ever.
Yeah.
But at least it's aware of these issues, like,
Is
and
it?
and that is, well, I mean, at least it's referencing them, like it
Hmm.
knows this is, a Trail of Tears kind of situation, but it at least references them, but and then it's kind of like it's in Sam Hell's character to kind of be blithe about that. So I'm not overly bothered by it, but more in that direction would be welcome.
Yeah, but yeah, but then the villain. They've literally
Yeah,
kidnapped white women and
right.
they're using them to pleasure themselves. And you say like, oh, so you're going to lean into the fact that they were led onto the, like you say, Trail of Tears and the reservations, but you're still making them the savages.
But they're the baddies.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it doesn't quite work, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not. You say like they make reference to. I'm like, yeah, but I don't think they understand the politics because they then kind of like blow it up with them being, the baddies. Um, but yes, they're then separated anyway. So Spangle is taken off to join the harem of these other women, and um, Sam is taken somewhere else to be sort of held. And we also have we note that there is a contact. This stripper that we've seen at the beginning, the frog makeup, is their contact, Squid Lips, and she tries to seduce. She saves Sam and she tries to seduce him, and he's kind of willing to sleep with her as well.
That's kind of a charming sequence. Like if there's
Yeah,
one sort of like sex sequence that's done well, it's probably this one.
yeah. But she sort of like keeps trying to seduce him, and she makes some really interesting points. So she's like, "No, you're a challenge. Like I want you. You're legendary in this kind of." I'm like, going, "Why?" Because nobody else seems to have heard of him. Like, why is he legendary? What's he done? But he keeps putting it back, and then, but she says, "Oh, men just throw themselves at me all the time. I'm bored of that. I want a
Right.
real man." And he makes her put a bag on her head,
Yeah.
which is a double sort of hit because then she's sort of like she's going like, "Is this what you want?" He's like, "Oh, it's just a kink. It's a kink I'm looking for." But he tries to escape.
But then
Um,
he uses it to escape. Yeah.
yeah. But then obviously he goes too far. He's distanced from Spangle, and his crotch thing starts going off, and so he has to get sort of closer to her to stop it from blowing up.
He doesn't seem to be in pain this time.
No, it just
Yeah,
starts beeping. It's a sort of, yeah, like a countdown maybe. I don't know. Um,
the other time though, when the irony is in the whole demonstration sequence earlier for This Is How It Works, we see he's clearly instantly in terrible pain. That's the demonstration sequence that then is not consistent with
yeah,
what happens later. And in a
yes,
weird way, like it's an advantage to him because it lets him locate Spangle,
yes,
that it beeps less as it gets and softer as it gets closer to her. So it basically,
yeah,
look, the penis is a heat-seeking missile.
yes.
And that's apparently what I learned from this movie.
That's yeah, and that's exactly what Sam is. He can just sort of find his way using his penis. But he
That is
does,
kind of the tagline.
yes.
A man in a post-apocalyptic world left with only one asset, his penis. That's
That's yeah.
that's
I think
about it.
that's it. That's the trailer. That's the opening to the trailer. In a world where a man can only trust his penis, um, but we find out that what's going on again. Like, is this Fury Road at this point?
Kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're all going to be impregnated. They're there for that. There's part of this sort of the of Toadie's harem, and they have Spangle's been sort of taken to them. It also made me feel think of 1980s Flash Gordon, where Dale Arden gets taken to the harem and she's sort of like getting ready to marry Ming the Merciless. So I'm sort of watching it again. So nothing in this is new. It's all been done before. Um, but she's taken through this test of like it rises her passion, and so she can
Hmm.
feel things. I think this is supposed to sort of suggest that she's not been able to feel passion, and that everything she's done so far has been like medical and technical and obligatory, but now she feels passion for sex. I don't know. I think that's kind of what it's trying to suggest.
What is the test? Is
Well,
it the
she
dance?
well, before that, they all gather around. She's on that big red bed thing,
Mhm.
and they
Oh, this is
apply
with
something, and
the curtains kind of over her
yeah,
body. Yeah. It's like a ritual. See, I sort of took it as I took it as like a ritual to kind of like arouse her prior to meeting
the
Toady, right?
well, that they do say that because yeah, remember that passion, it'll get you through the three snakes, the dance of the three snakes. But it kind of like to me, it was like, oh,
Yeah,
she's being aroused now.
you're right.
Everything so far has been technical. Um, and we,
This is the like Barbarella unleash your sensual side kind of scene. Yeah.
yes. Um, and again, like she goes out and she's sort of made to dance in front of Toady. And again, I was thinking of, I thought of Barbarella, sort of crossed my mind. The other thing I thought about was True Lies, which came after this, but the scene of Dowdy, Jamie Lee Curtis being thrown into this thing and doing the very sort of sexy dance in
Mm,
that
mm.
film. And I was like, it's that thing of like, use your sensuality to become a spy. It felt like that again. Um, and she does, she sort of taps into that and does this dance, and Toadie's like, you have successfully aroused the three snakes, and it turns out he's a frog with three penises, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is true of frog anatomy. I don't know what the choice is here. And this movie also like you know that it's sort of like pulling its punches in multiple ways, right?
Yes.
Like, so it's pulling its punches in terms of just the humor and going for it, right? But also like we're not like if this were done today, you couldn't do a lot of this stuff today. It's politically incorrect. You can't make a joke about your protagonist being a
Hmm.
rapist. But you'd also have a scene, of his penis sticking through the hole, and say, how can I do it like this, and stuff like that. And you'd see like the three snakes, moving under, the clothes or whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, you see some tentacle action there or something.
Yeah.
Here it's just implied,
Yes. Well,
which is just a shame.
she has a facial reaction. He lifts it up, doesn't he? He lifts up his sort of something like a flap, and then she goes, oh, big eyes and that sort of thing. You're like,
He pulls away. Yeah.
yeah, but you're right. Like, this is that thing where like it needs to be more leaning into this stuff and going like, cool, at least show us a shadow or something. Like, it can be ridiculous, but like show us like a shadow on a wall or something that you don't have to see it, but you can be like, oh my god, like what is that? Like, um, yeah, it needs
Yeah.
something else. It needs to be sort of leaning into it a bit more. And
Yeah.
then no, go on.
I mean, I was just going to say, like, Howard the Duck does a better job of that, right? Of just
Yes,
kind of
exactly.
like it knows its tone, and it, um, and it implies stuff without being,
Mm,
too heavy-handed. All right, its protagonist is also a ne'er-do-well, right? From a world of humanoid animals. Um, it's got play duck and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
there are models here. Without going
Yes.
full tentacle.
No, but yeah, there's ways of doing this. I think of like, there are parodies that have done this, like you say, Mel Brooks and things. Like there are ways of doing this and not having to go too graphic. But whilst it's going on, Sam's been watching on from above, falls off a balcony into a thing, is knocked unconscious, into a crate in which you find that the crate's full of guns. So still alluding to some of the bigger plot that kind of pointless. Um, but Sam's captured and to be tortured, and his groinal thing is cut off, which is the point of that scene, basically to free him from his groinal captivity.
Yeah, that whole torture scene, is that Bull doing that?
Yes.
Okay, that torture scene is really good. I think the dance stuff is not as good just because she's not a good dancer. I don't know. This is the second time we've used like erotic dance as an arousing thing, and it didn't really work the first time, and it doesn't work the second time.
Yeah.
Um, the three snakes thing is sort of like interesting, could be funny and weird, but they don't really commit to it. Again, the makeup is great. I mean, every
Mm.
close up of Toady is good, but that stuff doesn't work. I will say that the whole torture scene works for me, and he has a sort of like play with the torturer. There's a lot of like sort of tongue in cheek kind of lines, and he ultimately manages to get the as you say, groinal attachment off, and it doesn't explode, and then it explodes afterwards,
Yeah.
taking Bull out. But there's a lot of banter there, and this is I might be cutting your dick.
Yeah.
This is a pretty uncomfortable scene in a lot of ways, but it manages to play really well. It knows its tone here.
Yes. Well, there's several lines that it basically at one point Sam kind of explains the plot and what like
Hmm.
why he's got this thing on and what's happening, and he sort of explains about being fertile and other stuff and a few other things. And then like Bull, I've got the quote here. So it says, "I've got to tell you, you're kind of a weird dude. Like they just,
Yeah.
he's just sort of like
I
you can
think
just,
that's what made me laugh out loud.
yeah." Like
It's like
Bull's the one going like, "No, you're the weird one," and like Roddy's like, are you sure?" Like, yeah, no, it works. It works well this bit. Um, I like the fact because he cuts it in half, doesn't he, and sort of rips the chastity belt off, and he feels annoyed. Like Sam's like, "Shit, like it's fake. I've been
yeah.
played," and then it does blow up, and yeah, he's able to escape. So, but again, yeah, I like this scene. This works well.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is another highlight.
Yeah,
Again, the Frogtown stuff is firing well.
yeah. No, I think it works well. I think it's again. This is where again though. This is where I think it's clear that like Roddy Piper feels more comfortable doing this kind of stuff. Like the whole first half where it's just him and the women, it I think there's scenes when he's funny. Like when he's in the sleeping bag and he sort of rolls over and he's sort of like, I think he says something to like Spangle like, you look nice, and then, but then just turns over and sort of like there's bits where I'm like he's doing his bit, but there's sections where I think even he's uncomfortable with doing some of this stuff.
Well, I have a theory about this, and that's that, he comes from professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And um, part of my brain is sort of like, I'm so sick of seeing professional wrestlers in stuff. Although I don't begrudge them the opportunity, somebody hands you money to be a movie star, you're going to
Mm.
take it, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I'm not anti, but my theory about this is that wrestling is so over the top that he is way more comfortable against frogs than playing a human. And
Oh
in
yeah.
all of the like normal human scenes, he does not know how to act
Yeah.
in normal human situations. But when he's against a giant mutant frog, he is dead on, deadpan. He knows what the scene's about. And that I think that comes from that wrestling background. Like
Oh
he
yeah.
knows the
No.
heightened stuff. Like, oh, I'm playing against like a professor who's also a wrestler. Like, I
Yeah.
know how to play that. I had to do way more ridiculous stuff.
Yeah. Oh no. I think you are 100% right at this point. I mean, this is a year before They Live,
Mm-hmm.
and John Carpenter, clearly a more sort of masterful director than whoever directed this, is able to get more out of Roddy as Nada in that film. But even in that film, like he shines when it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think, when he's able, and I think that's the truth here, that when it kicks into Frogtown and he's sort of meeting people and he's sort of like, um, able to sort of like banter off people about sort of the like, there's a whole when they meet the trader, and there's a whole thing around the food and the beer and all this other stuff. He just feels more comfortable being like, oh, I know this shit, like I can do this. So yeah, I agree. I think you are 100% right. Like when it's just him and the women, I think he's like, I'm not sure how to play this. I'm not sure how I'd have to be directed to this.
What were the wrestlers of the 1980s like? I mean, this makes me think like, did if they were in a supermarket and somebody said like, that'll be, 82.95, would they just be like, um, okay, person, I thank you for the information. Like, would they just like have no ability to handle any social
Yeah,
situations except for these heightened ones?
kind of. I don't know. Right. The thing is, you say that, and you probably, I'm sure they were fine to an
Yeah.
extent. But I think one of the things that's known but not talked about often is like in the 80s, like it was you did territories, so they were driving around like from place to place to place, like 2/3, if not three-quarters of the year was them on the road going from show to show to show. Like they would pack up, do the show, go on, move on, that kind of thing. So they were in sort of like intense situations where they'd be in the car with like other guys all the time. And some of the stories from being on the road and like I mean that like Roddy has a stab wound on him from being in sort of Puerto Rico, and he asked for his show for his money at the end, and he got stabbed for the deal, and he fought back, and it got turned into a riot. There's all these other things, like there's all these stories, insane stories of wrestlers like getting involved in stuff. Like there's a wrestler called Harley Race, who used to travel around with Greg the Hammer Valentine, who got into an argument with someone in a motel, so got a shotgun out and started shooting outdoors. Like these guys are nuts. Like, yeah, no, you're saying like, oh, what was it like? It was crazy. Like these dudes lived a different life. Like this is kind of like legendary kind of stuff, and Roddy's part of that crowd.
He's
So
like, look,
no, like
mutant frogs are,
yeah,
5 degrees different from what I've already experienced. Like, I
yeah.
have reference points for that.
Exactly. Like, oh, being held at gunpoint or chainsaw point by a frog is more relatable to me than trying to talk to a bunch of women in a car.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I,
no,
I,
I
I
think you're
like that
right.
analysis there.
I think you are spot on, and I do think that sort of comes through. Um, but yeah, but this is where it all goes. Like, he escapes and they grab guns, and it's kind of like a shootout, and then it sort of comes into like I think it's supposed to be kind of like the action scene at the end.
Hmm.
But again, this is where budget is, or lack of, is on display quite heavily at this point. Um,
Yeah, it almost works, I mean, it doesn't fall on its face too terribly. But yeah, I mean, it's like there's a handful of guys
yeah,
following Toady. They just all seem to be running through an abandoned warehouse.
yeah,
You know, Citronella has been warned by this flare gun set up by Looney, and comes in. She's got that cool ass car with a machine gun
mm,
mounted up top. She winds up fire. I mean, it's unclear. Everybody is just kind of like stopped in their tracks. I'm not really, sure why they don't just fire first. If they're such tough guys. I mean, she ends up firing, and like, you sort of see something coming out of the gun, but not really. I mean, it's all a little confused. It doesn't have a good sense of place and location, bigger
Uh,
cast, and more sense of drama.
yeah. This is where, and we've kind of sort of alluded to this, um, when we've said we talked about Mad Max and stuff, but like when you watch films like this, because you kind of realize how good George Miller is at doing all this shit, where he's like, oh, we got the same sort of budget, but we did this, this, and this because we were crazy and we tried to sort of get away with stuff. And you sort of feel like this wants to do some of that stuff, but it's usually about compromise or being held back. Like pulls its punches, what you said. Like this whole finale feels like it's pulling its punches. Where I'm like, Sentinella turns up in that car and she sort of says, "Eat ground or eat lead," and they both sort of drop to the ground. And I'm like, that feels like it's gone for the joke. She's like, wise choice or sort of whatever. But I'm still like, oh no, the film I want is she turns up and like a bunch of squibs just go off. Like she just kills those
Mhm.
two guys. Like, but that costs money. So we haven't got the money for the squibs for that thing. So they've got to drop to the ground, but we've got to show some guards and stuff. So it
But I
kind
mean,
of,
George Miller could do that in the first Mad Max. I mean,
yes,
the squibs aren't that expensive. You
no.
know,
So I don't know. But this is where I don't check out, but I kind of feel like I'm all the fun stuff of this kind of like the second act. It's kind of like it's meant to ratchet up, and it doesn't. It kind of just sort of like
yeah.
they're escaping, they're doing this, they're doing that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they
It's
are.
still it's still better than any Marvel movie climax. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, those ratchet up. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
look, you're right. I mean, I see these limitations. It doesn't feel like it Mad Max extravaganza, chase scene kind of thing. But, I've seen we're in an era where we get all these ratcheted up climaxes that don't feel like anything. So,
yeah. I agree with that.
I mean, this is kind of in the middle. I mean, it's not really doing what it should be doing, but at least I'm not totally disengaged, going like, okay, like let's just tell me who won.
Yeah, and I think I've seen, um, and I think about like Mad Max or um there's other films that sort of do these things where it's sort of like, okay, we're going to bring it a mano, like we're going to have the fight on the. We even said this when we did like Kurosawa, like we talked about those first judo films, they're sort of like they try to do that. It's not always successful. It turns out judo's not the most dramatic of fighting styles to be put on screen. Like
Yeah.
you need to have something that feels that tension. um and to me, the film I always think about when it comes to this as being almost like the epitome of doing this well, but doing it like when it's clearly done quite cheaply is Highlander.
Hmm.
So the end of Highlander is, you've built up, you've had all these other fight scenes, and you've had like this thing of like Highlander is almost like the perfect lead up. Talking about wrestling, right? It's the perfect lead up to, and it's funny how that film starts with wrestling as well. The Fabulous Freebirds sort of start that film. Um, is this idea of like you keep seeing how good your protagonists are throughout the film, right? So like you'll see like the Kurgan in the 1500s, and then you'll see him in modern day, and he's like decapitating people, and he's a badass, right? So Clancy Brown is the Kurgan, badass, and then you'll see the same with Connor McLeod, sort of Christopher Lambert is playing these characters. You see them build up, right? But they never really confront each other. They'll have like interactions, but never have the confrontation. So when it comes to the climax and it's just them, really it's them in a warehouse. Like the finale of the film is just them in a big room fighting with swords, but it's
Hmm.
ace because you've been expecting and waiting for this fight for so long that when they do, and you obviously got the Queen music going on and all that shit, like it works. So I'm pumped for that. But it's kind of simple. Like it's nothing.
Hmm.
It's no big CGI thing. It's just two guys and some really cool camera work. Um, and that's what I thought. Like for this film, they want to build up to um
Mano a mano.
Sam Hell versus Toady. Like it's kind of been sort of that's been the or at least versus you've taken out Bull, so it's got to be Sam versus Toady. But it kind of like it never feels like anything. And when they get faced off against each other, it's kind of like a shoulder shrug where I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't thought about them fighting. Oh yeah, that's not even been kind of like
Well,
it's inevitable, but it's never like,
I hadn't thought about it either. One reason why I maybe like it is because Toady has already been impaled, right?
yeah,
So like
yeah,
he has already been killed. I
yeah,
mean, that is a fatal wound, and he is crawling through the desert to escape. And Sam Hell is like, oh hell no, I'm gonna chase him down
yeah.
and slaughter him, right? So like this is much more vengeance. Like I feel like there's no courage there. And I kind of like that it's so swarmy and
Mm,
so like um taking advantage of the situation. That like there's no nobility there at all to Sam Hill's character. There's just I see a weakened opponent who I can slaughter, who I have vengeance for. Um, so I kind of like that aspect of it. Like
Mm.
the villain, usually it's the hero, right, who's at the
Crawling
disadvantage
away.
in the final fight, and somehow they magically pull it out. Here it's the exact reverse, and the hero is just slimy, you know.
But that's fine. Then that needs to be played up even more, then, doesn't it? Because they're never really sure if he is slimy or if he is heroic. That's the problem with this
Yeah.
character. Like, play that
Oh
up
yeah.
that he's like that he's just, if anything, like if he's this legendary, I mean, that would be even funnier. Like, he has this legend of doing all these crazy sort of things, but it turns out that they've all been like somebody else, or like the story you're told. Yeah, he needs to confess that the story you've heard is like, no, I never did that. Like, he was already dead when I got there, and then some other people turned up, and I just took the credit for it. Or
Yeah,
like,
or like you killed that sheriff of that small town. It's like, yeah, I shot him in the back of his head when he opened the door.
yeah,
You know, like
yeah,
I'm,
he
you
was in
know,
bed at the
I'm not
time.
that brave.
Like, no,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Like, it needs, yeah, but
No, you're right. Yeah, the movie does not know who this character is outside of, he likes pussy.
yeah, which I think was what that was the audition.
That's
It's coming. Do you like women? Yes, you're hired.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Can
don't
you
know.
play somebody very fertile?
Yeah,
I think so.
what's your so it comes in like, yeah, well, what's my motivation? Jared Leto style, looking for that motivation. What is the core of this character? He has a lot of sperm. Cool. Then we're all good. We're all good. We know what we're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't scare me with the Jared Leto references because
Yeah.
I imagining
Jars
Roddy
of it turning
Piper
up.
playing in character. Like, what's he doing in that trailer? What's he
Yeah.
leaving for his colleagues? Like, use condoms? I
Yeah.
mean,
Do not use a sort of a black light on that trailer after you leave. I mean, the end of it, he does, you say he's successful over Toadie. He's then reunited with Spangle and all the women. And the joke at the end is, you have she's like, basically, I love you. We're going to go back. We'll get some time off after you fulfill it. You've fulfilled your duty. He's like, what do you mean by fulfill my duty? You've got to have sex with these beautiful women. And the joke, he makes the joke of like a soldier's work is never done. And that's sort of the end. And it's again, it's this thing of sort of
tone
like,
deaf.
yeah,
Rings hollow. Yeah.
yeah, because I'm like, oh, okay, do you want? I'm still confused as to you want to do this or not.
Mhm.
Because he technically, this is where Bond would turn to them and sort of wink at the audience, like literally, sort of like Roger Moore would be like,
Mhm.
wink at the audience as he was undoing his belt buckle. This would be
Mhm.
sort of like, well, that line wouldn't be said as sort of like pitying. It'd be like, he'd be climbing out of that front seat and be going like, well, a soldier's work is never done, as he
Yeah.
climbs into the back with all the women. Like,
And the camera pulls out. Yeah.
yeah,
I
because
mean,
he's not going to
you're
pull out.
right. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, you're right. And I feel like this kind of wants to have those overtones. I mean, I think clearly the kiss with Spangle is the, Bond on the raft at the end of, You Only Live Twice or something. But yeah, it doesn't fully commit to it. And those girls are sort of like all too eager, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no like they have no personality. You feel bad that they are being written this way and having to act this, in this role. Um, and it doesn't have the panache to kind of smooth over those issues, and play itself as a kind of like male sex fantasy kind of thing. It doesn't know that that's what it is, or if it
yeah.
does, it doesn't commit to it.
But that's the thing; it doesn't commit to it. That's the problem I find with a lot of this film. Like, when it's good, it's good. Like, it's because it's
Mhm.
committing to the bit, and it's like, oh, we know what we're doing. We're on brand, and it's funny, and it's leaning into those things. When it suffers, is like you say, when it leans out and it's like, oh, I'm not sure what to do with this scene, or I'm not sure how to play this scene, and it kind of feels like this is the director's fault. I mean, the director is the writer as well, so it's all on
Yeah.
him. But it kind of feels like that's when they're like, oh, we can't do that. Like Roger Moore would have impregnated all those women before they even got back to the trailer. Like, that would have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like they want him to be monogamous by the end of the film, but not at the same time.
Well, and also like Spangle doesn't seem to have any jealousy whatsoever. I mean, like there's no recognition of that, nor does he seem to reference that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a very weird sort of presentation of straight female psychology on display
Yeah.
here. But equally a strange presentation of his psychology. He's reluctant, but then not. But
Well, again, like
um,
the reference I felt at the end of this film was a boy and his dog, which, and
mm,
I'm not saying whether no, weirdly, I think that had more understanding of what it wanted to do, and it wasn't all
mhm,
good than this film does. But
yeah,
that thing of like when he went to the underground, and there was a kind of like, oh no, we're gonna basically you're not gonna get to have sex with them. We're gonna milk you, and
right.
you are going to be married to each of these women. Like, there's a ritual and a formula to this. It got that, like the joke where it pulls out to the corridor in that film, and they're all lined up in the wedding dresses and stuff, was funny. Like it's a fun idea. It's good, in a not particularly great film, but it's some fun ideas in it. Where this film doesn't kind of have that, um, you know, doesn't
Well,
have
that's a
that.
commitment. That's a subversion of
Yes,
the male dream, right? Um, this isn't interested in that, right? But I think your point is that it needs to commit to the bit as much as Boy and his dog commits to
yes,
subverting that.
yes.
Um, and there are times where this subverts it, right? I mean, the chastity belt thing is
Mm.
you're going to be in this woman's control, right? There are times where it subverts that, but yeah, it doesn't seem to understand these dynamics, and it doesn't commit to them. It also doesn't. I mean, like the plot is very loose, to say the least. You mentioned like the plot is like Frogtown is getting weapons, and you know this guy is acquiring weapons. One of the worst lines is when we meet him out in the dunes, outside the wasteland, and he says, "I have renegade scientists working." And you're like, "Who are these renegade scientists?" It's one thing to have Frogtown have a population of 6, but it's another thing to be referring to like renegade scientists in a
Well,
post-apocalyptic world.
but that's
Um,
also the captain that was trying to kill him at the beginning of the film.
yeah,
And you're like, sorry, how long has this been then that he's now gone out and formulated this entire sort of
I
like,
think that's a different character.
is it? Oh, I
I
was like, I don't know. Because I was kind of lost at that point where this guy's revealing all this plot. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Why do I care?
Oh,
What's this?
Count Sodom. Yeah,
Yeah. I was
yeah,
just like,
Count Sodom. Is that a different character? I don't.
probably. It, it,
It's
it,
just played by the same guy.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
was at that point, I was kind of like,
yeah.
they're revealing something here, but like, it
What's
never
going
fit.
on?
It never felt like this subplot mattered at any point to be like, oh, there's an entire subplot here about Frogtown's going to revolt against the humans. I'm like, all right, cool. Does it matter? Like, is
No,
this that Sam's kind of like inadvertently sort of saved the world? Is that the joke? Is this going to be like adding to the legend of this guy that shouldn't
Snake
didn't know?
Plissken style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is Count Sodom actually the same guy? And there's a military guy who's getting uranium for his own nefarious. We don't
Don't
even
know.
know.
Don't know. Have
Yeah.
that would be. I mean, that would be funny if you wanted to do that. Like this guy's kind of cowardly, and you could still play it. Roddy would do that, I think, because Roddy could do that. Like Roddy was as rowdy Roddy Piper. That was part of the gimmick. Was the thing of like, he's the one that would have the knuckle dusters hidden in his trunks for when the ref's not looking, or like the low blow, or like he would use the ropes to choke someone when the ref's not looking, or whatever. Like he would do that was when he was a heel. That was the gimmick. Like he would do that kind of stuff. You could play that here, where he's sort of like, oh, I'm going to take I'm an opportunist. and the legend is built up around this kind of character that's actually a bit of a coward, and he might look like them. He might look like the hero, the action hero that we expect, but actually he's a bit of a dickhead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a character called Lord Flashman that was, it's sort of like it's a take on the Napoleonic sort of like war hero who's exactly this. So like, you'd have sort of like Blackadder kind of did it with Lord Flashheart, kind of similar thing where it's all bravado, but
It's like Falstaff.
yes,
Yeah.
kind of thing, yeah. It needs to be that. Like, I don't know, like inadvertently he saves the world by actually, just wanting to get away. He kills Toady and destroys this plot to destroy the human race, but like, and that's what people remember him for. But that's not what
Mm.
the point was. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. They could have added so much more to this.
Yeah, it does seem undercooked.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really have to have a worldview. It doesn't have to really, swing for the fences in terms of presenting a post-nuclear world. Doesn't really have to know any of that, but maybe just know your characters and know your setting and play it up. Do the best version of the story that you want to tell.
Mm.
It doesn't seem to know what story it wants to tell. But I mean, all the Frogtown stuff works
It's
fine. I
good.
mean, like even that escape, the
Mm.
chase through the desert. I mean, like it's a little convenient. Like turn the wheel. Well, do you see the shell coming? Like okay, it looks cheap, but I still like that vehicle with that tank gun mounted
Yeah,
into
yeah.
it that the frogs are using, and I like that. Hell is gonna go kill the injured guy. Even though it should be played up. I mean, there's stuff here that's good.
Oh
I
yeah,
like
no,
the
it's
James
it's
Bond wink at the end, but
yeah.
that's sort of 60% there. I mean, there's good ideas here.
Mm.
And I think I kind of once I hit the Frogtown stuff, I think that I'm kind of more sold on the movie and more forgiving of these elements. That you're right about all of this, but
Yeah. I mean, I think my disappointment is like this is considered like a cult classic, but it's one of those where I'm like, um, this could have been. I mean, it was never going to be mainstream. Like this is not, but like this could have been so much more if it was just handled that bit more. There was a bit more sort of like sophistication. No, no, I'm not even talking like, and I'm not talking like Oscar winning sophistication, but like just that little bit more of polish about what it wanted to be, and sophistication around some of the humor. It would be
mhm,
brilliant. Like this film would be remain a cult classic, but it would be like a much sort of
much more
stronger.
beloved, sort of,
Yeah.
yeah.
um yeah, than it is. But no, I agree. I think part of it is just the sparseness of it. I think that sort of bothers me a little
Yeah.
bit more at times, but it could be bigger. But yeah, no, it's still fun, and I agree. I think once it hits Frogtown, it's kind of fun. There's some. You're right that the money seems to have gone on the makeup and the frog effects. I'm glad they didn't sort of skimp on that too much. Um.
Yeah, I
So
love
yeah,
the frog costumes. I mean, I am so impressed that they look wet
yeah.
and they're creative. Like the eyes move independently. I mean, yes, the mouths kind of just go up and down, but they're creatively designed. I mean, I think like the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, like the
Mm.
mouths just go up and down. I mean,
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
this looks great, and they're gross.
Yes.
Like they
And
look so much more realistic.
I like the fact that there's variety as well. Like it's
Mhm,
Arabella. I thought she was called Squidlips. Squidlips was the first one we meet. It was Arabella is the dancer, but she
mm,
looks slightly different. You actually
mhm,
see that some of the soldier frogs look slightly different. Like the ruling class look like proper frogs,
uh-huh.
but other people are like mutated different, and I like that as well. So it's probably it's a cost thing, but they still look good. The guys in the soldier costumes and stuff still look like frogs. There's still good makeup and stuff going on. So yeah, no, I like all that stuff.
Yeah, hire some extras.
Yeah, yeah.
Just they don't have to have speaking lines. Just put them at a stand, on a cheap table, just with some carpets on it, outside of that, and
Cover
just
their
show your
faces.
characters watching by. Yeah,
Yeah, give them
yeah.
spray their hands green in the distance. It's just you know. do some different things. Yeah, I mean, that makes a difference. That makes a hell of a difference. Just to make something feel populated
Mm.
makes a hell of a difference. And that's where I think this film sort of is a little bit poor. But other than that, I actually think this film is actually it is good fun. I actually really like this film, and I'm a big fan of Roddy. I think he does good stuff when he's sort of like, like you say, when he's not trying to be human. When he's trying to be bombastic, I think, um and I think that's true. The more as you said that, the more I think about his performances and things, I'm like, yeah, no, that's spot on. Like, going back to thinking about like They Live, every time he tries to emote, that's not him just being sort of like stood there looking pensive and stuff, it's always a little awkward. But the moment they're like, just go, just have a go at some old woman in a shop or
Yeah.
walk into the bank or do whatever, like it's gold. But
Yeah, he could do the exaggerated stuff, right? And that goes back to wrestling. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember him as this just like super he was I just remember him always screaming as Roddy Piper. It was
yeah,
like there was never a level below like 9 or 10.
yeah.
And half the time I was like, why are you at a 9 or 10? Like you're just talking trash about Hulk Hogan or something, you know? But it was like, I am infuriated and ready to kill.
Yeah.
You know? I was like, dude, calm down. Um, yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I haven't been a huge fan of his, but I like him better in this movie,
Yeah,
after this movie.
yeah. No, he does all right. I mean, he never has a sterling acting career, and nothing ever beats They Live. But
Yeah,
um, yeah, no, this is worth checking out. I mean,
yeah.
this is I think worth seeing. It's a bit of fun. I mean, this is like, you know, don't go in expecting like a big film, but like grab some beers,
Well,
kick back,
this is
enjoy
on
it.
Tubi and Roku over here, which are
Yeah.
like the free ones, and those
So
systems
yeah,
are
it's on Pluto TV, and I bought it on Prime for £3.
mm,
So
bought, not rent.
well, it was £3 to rent it or £3 to buy it, and I was like, I'll buy it then.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, um, then it shows up in your algorithms for all time,
That's true. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean it's in those selections where you scroll through and it's like it's all the like 80s and 90s, like all the Species movies, they've got so many sort of like 80s and 90s and 2000s kind of like really low budget sci-fi stuff that I haven't ever seen or heard of.
hmm
Um, and this is one of those movies. So as long as you go in and you know that it is, sort of like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think this is on par with like Earth Girls Are Easy, you know?
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's
Um,
good. That's a good comparison. To me, I thought that is a good comparison. I thought sort of like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Another sort of kind of thing on there. So yeah, there's a genre of these films of like low budget, silly, sort of like sci-fi films, usually written and directed by make special effects guys,
uh,
which is where they excel. So yeah, no, I thought this isn't a bad film, but it's an interesting watch. Right. Any final thoughts then on um Hell Comes to Frogtown?
I am with you that like it needs to just commit, and there's stuff that does not work here, right? It just objectively doesn't work.
Mm.
But I was surprised. I think it really is the Frogtown stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I was surprised by how well I like this, and I can honestly say I like this movie.
Mm.
Um, I don't love it, but I do like it, and I especially 15 minutes in was thinking, what in the
It's a
world does Scott have me watch? Like,
it's a rough start, I'll admit. It doesn't start well. So yeah, do get past that. No, I agree. I'm with you on this 100%. Okay, it's not a strong start. It takes a while to get going, but when it does, it's good fun.
yeah,
And it's worth sort of watching, in that sort of sense. And it's kind of just one of those where you're just like, yeah, cool. This is, I think, it, when you hear about sort of like, people they remake like classics and all this other stuff, and then they go, don't remake classics, remake films that didn't do well. This is one of those films where I'm like, I see the potential in this being kind of like a straight to streaming silly film.
Yeah.
This is one to remake.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't need the TV adaptation of From Dusk Till Dawn.
No.
You know, that's already a great movie. You know, find something like From Hell Comes to Frogtown and make it, you know, great fun. You know, I mean, like, do it. We just had, you know, like Fallout. Fallout
Yes.
works great. It's, you know, and it is sort of tongue in cheek in places and deadly serious in other places. And you could kind of thread the needle similarly here. We have those kinds of tonal double movies now.
But I don't need it to be a TV series. Like, just do a film.
Yeah.
Just do like a 90-minute fun film. Get someone who can, you know, Chris Hemsworth could do. I mean, it's pretty too expensive, but like, you know, get a Hemsworth who could do this, or there's other actors like that could.
Well, he'd want that 15-minute speech about how life is tough now. You know?
Yes, yeah, or he'd want some prosthetic nose and do the whole thing. So, yeah,
there are a lot of actors. There are tons of actors.
There's loads of people that could get that tone, that look like an action star, but could, you know, that could do the.
Throw a rock on the street in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. There's plenty that could do it. I'd love to see it. Like, I think this would be a great thing to remake and go full on, like lean into it and be fucking stupid and get that R rating. You can do that on streaming. Just do it for like low budget. Keep it, but like not this low budget, like higher extras.
Oh yeah, higher extras. Go for you know, the dressing up Frogtown, right? I mean, you know, and get some acting coaches in there to help with the you know, the characters who kind of can't quite pull it off. But it doesn't really need all that much.
No.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it could be silly. Anyway, right. Let's just talk about. So, still got more coming up.
Thanks for introducing me to this.
Yes, no, I'm glad you liked it. You know, I think I often sort of worry about these ones. From like, oh no, you know, what have I? Because I thought the same as we started. I was like, oh, I remember this. I watched this years ago. I was like, I remember this being more fun than this.
Yeah.
But on the main feed, we have done you know, the closest one to this would be Tank Girl. More recently we got The Postman coming up, and we've got Children of Men and The Road to wrap up. But on here, we've still got Six String Samurai, you know, the sort of quirky version of this. On the Beach 2000, the TV sort of serial that was made of it. And finally, we'll end up with Oblivion, the Tom Cruise blockbuster. It did all right. It did okay. We'll talk about it. So yeah, go join us on the main feed. But for now, thank you very much for sort of all your support, everybody. We greatly appreciate all the Patreon support. It's wonderful. And Julian, you know, thank you again for this discussion. It's been a good one.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for introducing me.
Thanks for sticking with it.
How comes to Frogtown?
Yeah,
I did not know what to expect.
But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and we shall see you on the next episode.
There's something very important I forgot to tell you.
What?
Don't cross the streams.